The ability to create a life and make a family is an absolutely amazing experience we can have as people, but the experience of becoming a parent is a little less amazing when you're still in high school. Unplanned teen pregnancy is still an issue that is affecting young women and men in our country today, but it has been steadily improving these last 25 years. In 1991, the national birth rate for girls aged 15 through 19 was 61.8 out of 1,000. In 2015, that rate has dropped 64% and has become 22.4 out of 1,000. This decrease in the rate is due in part to the fact that health officials have started to move away from an abstinence-only approach in sex education to one that is based in scientific fact about human reproduction. With Donald Trump's presidency, health officials are worried that he will turn back to the abstinence-only approach and, in turn, increase the teen pregnancy rate again. An increase of the rate will affect the young men and women who may have to put their lives on hold to take care of another human being before they can legally buy alcohol. And it will affect the American taxpayer as the government spends $9.4 billion in taxpayer money to fund resources for these young parents. To prevent the teen pregnancy rate from increasing, we first need to understand the factors that go into why it occurs, specifically the factors involved with sex education and socioeconomic background. It is easy to notice that certain groups of people have higher rates of teen pregnancy than others. To understand why this happens, we need to look at the difference in attitudes towards teen pregnancy. In a 2015 study, 961 young black and white women were surveyed to study the differences in their attitudes towards unwanted pregnancy at a young age. From this, we can predict why it occurs. One difference is family upbringing. Black families are generally more religious than white families, and religious opposition towards sex and contraception may explain why black women have less knowledge about contraception and are less likely to use it. Also, black women have more of a negative attitude towards young premarital sex because of their religious affiliations, but are less willing than white women to refuse sex if it meant that they would make their partner mad. Black women are also more likely to live in poverty and may have a hard time affording contraception and in turn won't use it. We can apply these differences in attitudes beyond just these two groups. Neighborhoods that are very religious will be less likely to teach about contraception regardless of race. Women from impoverished neighborhoods will not be able to afford contraception regardless of race. These factors could be why we tend to see the same groups of young women who are getting pregnant at a young age. Most people, especially teenagers, care about what their peers think of them. Norms are defined as shared expectations about when it is okay to make certain life transitions. Data was gathered from 75 different high schools across the country about the norms they shared on teen pregnancy. High schools where there were strong norms against teen pregnancy had a low rate of it occurring because no one wants to be that girl who got pregnant in the whole school. It works the opposite way as well. High schools that did not have strong norms against teen pregnancy had a higher rate of it occurring. Racial composition affected how the norm was accepted in high schools, and surprisingly, socioeconomic differences between the students did not really affect the norms that heavily. So girls either did not want to be the only girl pregnant at school, or they did not want to be the only one that wasn't pregnant. This shows that the opinions of our peers matter in the choices that we make. Sex education is an awkward subject to talk about. It shouldn't be because it is about our bodies and it is important to learn about this. Nevertheless, it still makes us uncomfortable. In an online survey, 1,400 young North American women were asked what type of source they were the most comfortable with receiving their sex education from. The majority reported that they were more comfortable with sex education that came from friends, books, or the internet, rather than it coming from doctors, parents, or schools. In other words, they preferred it in a less formal setting where they felt comfortable enough to ask questions, have it come from multiple sources so that they could gather more information, and form their own opinions about whether or not they wanted to be sexually active without a certain bias being aimed at them. The abstinence-only approach of sex education is not very effective at all. Sex education is very important because it is where we learn new and very important facts about the human anatomy, and it plays a significant role in reducing unplanned pregnancies and abortions. The decrease in the teen pregnancy rate correlates strongly with the increase in the use of a sex education that provides students with the facts of how their bodies work. Teaching them the facts about the reproductive system and debunking sex myths can go a long way in preventing teen pregnancy. With this knowledge, teens can make their own decision about being sexually active, and they can also understand the potential consequences that come with it. To enhance my research, I spoke with Professor Jeff Dennis, who is a sociology professor at Texas Tech University. I asked him about the male perspective when it came to teen pregnancy. He said that the male perspective, especially those involved in a situation of teen pregnancy, most are likely to go along with what their partner wants because they feel that they have no say in the decision-making process. When we don't include boys in the conversation, we contribute to young men not feeling they have a right to an opinion when they get a girl pregnant, and condoning boys believing it's not their responsibility when they get someone pregnant. In conclusion, both socioeconomic factors and sex education factors affect the teen pregnancy rate. The family upbringing and income of a woman can determine the likelihood of that young woman getting pregnant, as does the type of sexual education she received. The first step in prevention is awareness. We need to make sure that we understand how our bodies work and use that to stay safe and also keep the teen pregnancy rate decreasing.